I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here. Glad to have you along. And hopefully, in the next hour or so, or sometime within it, I'm getting a call from residents of the public housing community who, as we speak, are marching to the uh, leasing center of Minneapolis Public Housing Agency on Olson Memorial Highway just off downtown. And they're marching with complaints about the lack of service, lack of maintenance that they feel they're not getting. And so let me just put this note up here. If you have a public housing story or experience, want to be in the conversation, here's the link. There's the StreamYard link. Copy it. Oops, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong link. Sorry. Let me go back. Here it is. This is the link. And the theme for today's program is the public housing residents who are protesting the maintenance and service from Minneapolis Public Housing Agency. If you want to join the conversation, you know what? There's still a problem here. I'm reading it, and I'm going to change that again because it's sending you to a program from yesterday, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I apologize there. I will fix that. Let me do that right now. Brenda, how you doing, first of all? While I'm fixing this, let me say hello to you and thank you for all your great work covering and working with me at Conversations with Al McFarlane, working remotely from I'm saying Santa Fe, right? Santa Fe, right? Uh,
The land of the fires.
That's what's going on there now is fires.
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
About 28 of them to be exact.
Oh,
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's a tinderbox.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you and I were talking about some stories. What stories that you've worked on of late that you have a backstory on, or feelings, or extra explanation on? Let's invite our listeners and viewers to look at your work. I'm going to put a link up too that shows people how to get to the Insight News archive. I'll do that momentarily while I do the other fix for this program. But what things you working on?
Well, I finished up very early this morning on the square, 38th and Chicago. And as an outsider looking in, um, really concerned that people are taking it personal, that it's about their agenda or about their anger. I'm 1,200 miles away, but I haven't gotten that image of George Floyd out of my psychic, and it's been 2 years.
Hmm.
And I can imagine what that young 17-year-old is still going through, having been in the center of it all. So I still think of Gianna in the White House with
Mm-hmm.
President Biden, and I think of uh, the wonderful things that could be done with that square that would really enhance the image of Minneapolis.
Gotcha.
So that was one that really got me.
Let me
Um,
bring my guest on. I think Gloria
Good.
Jackson is here. Going to be here in a minute. We may have to do some
Hello.
improvising here. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, so the problem is now I have video and I'm looking at your ear. So you have to tell me. Can you? Why don't you just tell me what's going on, but look into the camera?
Yes. I live
Uh,
in Harrison Park. I live in Harrison
look
Park.
in the camera, please.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me put my
Yeah,
cane down.
yeah,
Y-
and take the camera out of your ear because all I'm seeing is
Okay.
your ear. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because I'm on two phones. She got me. I don't know how to do this. I got my cell phone. I can see me, and then I'm talking
Well,
on her phone though.
well, maybe Nancy can hold the phone up for you to put you on camera because I need you on camera.
Well, you need to speak to her because I don't know how to do this here.
Yeah,
She got me.
put her on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Nancy.
Barry, tell her to come here. She's coming.
Okay, great.
He want to speak to you because something's not right. Something's going wrong.
Hello.
Hey, Nancy, you know, we
Hi.
have to have you facing the camera because all I see now is the ear in the camera. Can you put your
Oh,
camera on
Somehow
speakerphone?
we can't hear. Hold
Okay.
on. I have an idea.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, okay.
He said I can't speak into
You know, I can talk to you through another phone.
Al, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I couldn't hear. There we go, because I couldn't see Gloria.
It's still
Now I
not
see
loud
you.
enough though. Turn it up. Hello.
I hear you, and I see you. Hi,
Hello?
Gloria.
Yeah. Yo, how are you?
I'm good. Tell me what's going on.
Over in Harrison Park. I live in Harrison Park. My name is Gloria Jackson, and we having a lot of problems with funding. The funding is over here, and we having a lot of problems about repairs. And we had agreement with Minneapolis Public Housing. They was in with us when we did the lawsuit about 20-some years, 30 years ago, whenever it been. And they're not keeping their word up about helping us keep this maintain the property. And we need funding right now and stuff. And they're not providing no funding at all. And we got the people damaging their cars, the buildings that's going in disarray and stuff. And we need repairs, a lot of repairs. And we not getting no help from the Minneapolis Public Housing. And they just got $6 million a couple of weeks ago or so. $6 million. They want to spend the money on getting new housing instead of fixing up the housing that we already got. And that's not right. People live down here. We need repairs. And it's dangerous down there. Big old potholes tearing up people's cars and things like that. It's bad. But they don't want, I guess as I'm getting it, they don't want to accept anything. They don't want to agree on anything. And so we out here marching now, out here at one of their dealers right here. That's why you hear the noise in the background. We asking for help from the public housing. And so I hope they listening and they can get us the funding that we need. But this was in agreement from the lawsuit. I'm one of the people that sued Minneapolis Public Housing. Why this was built here. And we need help now, not tomorrow. We need it now. These apartments that we got down here, they got public housing in here, in market rate, in public housing.
Are you in the new Heritage Park part, or
yes?
Okay,
yes.
Between Olson and Plymouth, right? Or
yes.
Okay, but that whole area is called Harrison now.
Harrison Park.
Harrison Park. Okay.
Yes.
And
it's a beautiful place. When I first moved back down there, because I relocated, because it was the public housing, Minneapolis projects. So we had a lawsuit, and we won the lawsuit. And so they lost a lot of this property, and so it was an agreement they were going to help keep this property up when it was rebuilt. And so a buyer bought a lot of this land, and that was an agreement to help keep it up, and they backed out on it.
That was called the Holman lawsuit, right? Holman consent.
Yes, that's right. That is right.
And that was really a game changer for Minneapolis, for North Side in particular, because all of those units that had been built back in the 30s and 40s, the Sumner Olson homes and also the Glenwood homes were all targeted because they had concentrated poverty among Black people in the Black neighborhood. And the federal government found that was an illegal use of managing and depriving people of opportunity. And they made the city tear down the projects and build a whole new mixed income community. But they also did it in a way, theoretically, that would not displace people who have been there already. People who were there were supposed to have the first right to come back and to create and build a new home. So you're part of that group.
Yes,
Tell me what it was like. Tell me what it was like when you first moved into the neighborhood before that lawsuit happened.
When the neighborhood before the lawsuit, here was like a discrimination thing going on between the Black Americans and the Asian Americans, which is Hmong. And they was evicting the Black when anything going down. They would evict the Black family and leave the Asian family here, and that's what a lot of it would cost the problem. So that's what we started saying that wasn't right. In the first place, if you evict one family, evict both of the families. But they let the Blacks, they took the Black family out and let the Asian family stay here. And the Black family didn't have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. And most of them had a lot of kids at the time. They were homeless.
Mm.
And they was living on the streets. And public housing knew that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what the lawsuit really came about, as we started protesting about that there too. About people that the Blacks were putting them out like discriminating against the Blacks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you work over there with Louise? Was it Louise James?
Louise James, I was with her too. I did volunteer work with her.
Mm-hmm. And then who was down there in Glenwood? What was her name down in Glenwood? McKinney? Alice McKinney?
Yeah, Alice McKinney, and there's another one, Alice McKinney. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a long time, but you're right.
So they were like the advocates, right? To help manage and keep things going down there, as I recall.
Yes, that's right. You're right. You were
So,
right. Yep.
So when they had the lawsuit go through, and the city, with federal support, tore down all the projects.
Yes.
Where did you live for a while before you were able to come back?
I lived up on 36 in Oliver for 5 years, and they told us once they got this bill, and so we had priority to move back, and I did.
Okay.
It was beautiful, it was very beautiful. And then all of a sudden, it's just the places start going down. So after about 15 years, things start slowly going down. Like we live on Bassett. This is Bassett Creek in the first place.
Right.
We have a lot of sinkholes, and it's bad. We need a lot of repairs because people tearing their cars up and stuff because of big holes here. We got no funding because that was an agreement with the public housing, with the owner that bought some of this land, whenever to help maintain these public housing. But we ain't getting the funds for that right now. So everything is going in disarray right now. The place is beginning to fall down. We got a building over here on Olson Memorial Highway 94. It burned down about 3 years ago, and it's disgusting. It's still sitting there, ain't torn down yet.
3 years. What are they saying? What's the reason?
As I'm getting in it, then they say, ain't nobody really saying nothing, they ain't telling me really nothing now. But as I'm getting, they ain't got the funding for the building, I guess. Even to pay anybody to tear it down, I guess. I don't know exactly what it is.
And a burnt building has to be a hazard to the community, right?
It's a very house, and it's a very house. When you pass down Olson Memorial Highway, going downtown, everybody that's coming out of Plymouth, everybody looks to the left, going downtown. That's all you see, a big old burned down building with a fence around it. I see nearly 3 years.
Yeah. I drive by there myself, going downtown because I live in North Minneapolis. And thank you for bringing that up, because I'm going to have a photographer go over there and take a picture of it and put it in the paper and ask the city why. Because, the same thing happened to me. Insight's office is over on Bryant Avenue, just south of Broadway. And on a New Year's Eve, I think it was a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, somebody somehow a building 2 doors up from me caught on fire.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes, I remember that.
And so that building sat there for 2 years, 3 years, right? And so if you figure that if it was in a white neighborhood, they get it taken care of quickly. And how is it
within a month or two? You'll start seeing some of the process.
Yeah, but how is it that it's okay for our neighborhoods and our children and our traffic to be insulted by the lack of attention? So I think that what you're bringing up is a good point. And what I want to do is help you on that. I'm going to have a photographer come by and get a picture of it, and we'll ask the city, what about this? How come this is still here?
Yes, this has been going on 3 years. It's been, I think it'll be 3 years. It's coming January, I think, or February. It's 3 years. This building's been there, and it looks make the neighborhood look bad.
How close are you? How close are you to the speakers?
Uh,
Are you
they
far
out there on
from
the
them?
side. I'm not that far. I'm up on the top of the building. I'm on the building steps, and they on the sidewalk.
Okay. Maybe
Yeah, you can
Nancy
hear.
or somebody could take your camera, maybe put the camera on the speaker. If somebody could go over there, if Nancy, if someone is there, they could take that camera and just aim it at the speaker so I can hear what the speaker's saying. What do you think?
Yeah,
Are you that close?
yeah, I'm close enough. But see, I had surgery. I don't know if I can walk. If I can walk, get somebody over here.
Well, maybe if you can call
Yeah, here she
somebody, have
come.
them take,
Yeah, here she come now. Here she
yeah,
come.
just have her take the camera over there for a few minutes and just let us listen to the speakers.
He want the camera go there and listen to what the people saying. He want to hear the people. Yeah, she's taking it over there now.
And Nancy, you can talk to me while you're doing that.
Yeah, they raising the signs up.
Okay.
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, she's taking it out. Yeah, this is what they took. They're telling them to fix it.
What are they
Talking about
saying?
solar housing. MHPA, they talking about the housing authority. They talking about them. Yeah.
Is anybody going to make speeches, Nancy?
Nancy, he want to know if anybody gonna make a speech.
What?
He want to know if anybody else gonna make a speech. Yeah. She going to ask now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, she going to.
Well, to our listeners or viewers, this is live. This is what's going on right now in
Yes,
North
live. Yeah,
Minneapolis.
I'm so happy that it's live. Yeah, and I'm the type of person, I speak my piece. I speak my mind. I don't shy back. So I speak it because right is right for everybody to be treated equal. Everybody, no matter what your race or whoever you are, you need to be spoken. They got to hear us because this is not right.
That's
This
right.
building,
That's
if it's a
right.
white neighborhood, like you said, if it's a white neighborhood, that building wouldn't be sitting. It's a great big apartment building. He wouldn't be sitting there on this right there off of 94 in
Yep.
Ocean Memorial Highway. He wouldn't be
Right.
sitting there for 3 years broken down like that. Right down with a fence, and it's this disgusting for our neighborhood. And I grew up on the north side. I've been on the north side for 50-some years. This is
Where
my
you?
home. I love the north side.
I've been here almost that long myself. I got here in '73. How long? When did
Yeah.
you come to North Minneapolis?
I came to North Minneapolis in 1970 or 71.
71, before me. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, and I've been here. I grew up here on this land right here. 50 years. My son is 51 years old. He was born right here on this land. Right here.
Okay. Okay.
And so I love the north side. North side, they talk about the north side. North side is it's just a few bad little people out, but the north side is a beautiful place to live.
That's right. I agree with you.
It's a beautiful place. It's a lot of nice people. It's really nice here. And I love it here. I love the north side. I've been here all these years and I love it. I don't want them to live nowhere else but here. And stuff. And this land, it's a beautiful land right here. Beautiful people here too.
Well, too often they try to get us out of the neighborhood because the neighborhood is so close to downtown.
Yes, they want
Close
to
to
get us out of here.
transportation. Yeah.
Yes.
And close to a lot of good parks and a lot of good bicycle trails, a lot of good things in our community. And as often as not, they never say it like that, but they have policies and plans that don't include us. And they try to get us out of the picture and have us stuck out somewhere where you can't get a bus.
In the no man's land. That's what they
Right.
want us out of, in the no man's land. With all the wild animals there, because they feel like that's all we live, nothing but animals.
Got you.
But it's not right. That's not right. That's how they feel about us. They don't want us to have anything nice. But we ain't gonna give up. We're gonna fight for what's right for us. We gonna get it.
All right.
And they don't kick us under the bus or nothing like that because we gonna fight for it.
That's right. Where are you from originally?
I'm from the state of Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay. And
Yes,
how you're Cajun?
Yeah, that's Cajun. Well, I'm a Black American, but that's how I go by.
Cajun.
Because I cook nothing but Cajun food.
Aha. Okay.
I love to cook. Everybody, I cook my food and give to people and stuff. Everybody, I'm a cook.
Okay.
Nothing but Southern cook now. I love to cook.
Okay.
I can cook most anything you ask. I can cook it, especially soul food.
Okay. All right.
All you do is just tell me what you want, and I will cook it for you. You really don't have to buy it. I go buy it myself and cook it. That's what I do.
All right. So
I love to cook.
Good, good, good. Well, I'm gonna check you out because I love to eat
All you
good
do is
food.
check me
That's for
out.
sure. Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
check me out. All you do go to the office, they'll call me and let you know. They call me
Okay,
up and say, you want some food? Tell me what you want. You got it.
okay. All right, all right.
Yeah.
How old were you when you came from Louisiana to Minnesota?
I was 15.
Okay. And so, what kind of life did you have in Louisiana? What town were you from?
I'm a little town right out of Shreveport called Austin, a country town and stuff, and there's just probably about 20 people, about 30 people living in a little small town. And
Mm,
it wasn't the best of life, but it was a home.
yeah.
And I feel like I was treated better down there in that little small country town in the woods than I'm treated up in a big city.
Well,
Yeah, where I came from,
yeah. Minnesota has this reputation for being such a liberal and progressive state, but that's really a lie because life is more difficult for Black people here than most places in the country,
that's
and
right. That's
that
right.
shows
That's
up
exactly
in
right.
bad health. It shows up in uh, lack of wealth, low home ownership, shows up
Yes,
in not getting good jobs, not being able to keep them. And it shows up
yes,
if you got a job, you don't get promoted the way white
yes,
people do. They
yes,
have our
that's right.
people do the work, and you train young white people to be your boss, right?
Yes, that
And
is
that's how
right.
they
You're
do it.
right on that.
It
I
shows
can
up in,
vouch for that. I can vouch for that because I've been around the block a few times. I've seen it. I've seen it. And every word you just said is exactly right.
Mhm. And it shows up
Everything you said.
in the schools. Minnesota is known for having the best school system in the country, but we got the
So
worst
do.
results for Black children. Our
Yes,
children
indeed.
suffer, and
We
they
suffer.
don't want to hire and keep Black teachers, and
Yes,
but they make plenty of room for white teachers coming from the Iron Range,
yes,
and everywhere else they make a way for them. So I always say, Miss Jackson, to me, it's like we get the misery, they get the money. They make money on us being miserable, and they have
yes.
every incentive in the world to keep us in the misery side of the
That's what they
equation.
want, but it's not going
That's
to
what they
work.
want.
But
But
it's not going to work. We're speaking up now.
we can't have it. We speaking up, showing up, and
Yes,
showing out.
uh-huh.
And
And show it. No, we'll keep on showing out though.
that's
Cause
right.
we gonna
And
get what we gonna
everything.
get what's coming to us. We gonna get it.
That's right.
We not gonna give
Everything.
up.
That's right. And things must change, and we
It's going
demand
to
that.
change too. And we
That's right.
demand it, and it's going to change too. No matter what, they can talk about us, call us names and everything else. But hey, we gonna hold our heads up high and keep walking. We're
That's
not gonna
right.
look back at it. We gonna step forward. So
Hmm.
they can talk all they want. Because I know I heard from a lot of parents in my lifetime how the kids been treated and stuff going to school. They treat the white kids better than the Black kids.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of parents say that too, and the teachers have did that. Yes. But
Hmm.
okay, then I don't know if it's time to get off or not.
Now we
Or
got.
they
Yep.
marching back now.
Yeah, okay, so they about to wrap it up.
Yes, they're gonna wrap it up.
Okay, well maybe she can get somebody else to come on to talk about
Yeah, here
the
she is.
issues
Here
as
she is
well.
right here.
Yeah.
Here she is right there now.
Hey, how
Wait a
you
minute, wait a
doing?
minute. Let me take the
Well,
yeah.
hi, Al.
Hey Nancy, how are you?
I'm doing
Thanks
well.
for
How are you?
thank you. I'm well. Thank you for letting me talk with Miss Jackson. That was a wonderful conversation. So tell me what
Good.
happened and what the issues are. She's explained them, but take a
Yeah,
little more time to review them again and
sure.
what demands are
Okay.
being made and what the experience has been.
Okay. Well, the frustration in the community has just been that for years now, there's been reluctance to put the resources in to repair the housing. There's actually about 50 units right now that are unlivable because there's no funding to repair them to make them livable. And 200 units of MPHA housing are in Heritage Park. And just months ago, the city of Minneapolis gave $6 million to MPHA to build new housing. So they're not taking care of their existing housing. They're building new, shiny new buildings. And they're letting this community decline. And that's unacceptable. And we're going to keep marching. This is our first one. And it's,
Mhm.
everybody's new to it, but we're going to keep moving.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. And so, what has the city said in response to your complaints so far?
Uh, so far, we're not getting anything very positive from either MPHA, as in positive being that they're going to do something,
Hmm.
and also in positive in that they are kind of being responsive. So we need action, and this is just not tolerable anymore. And these families living in Heritage Park need attention. There was a reason Heritage Park was built. It
Were
was
you
built,
around? Were you around when that whole thing
well,
came up?
you see the color of my hair. Yes,
Well,
I was not really involved at the time, but I know of what was happening.
mhm,
And the unfortunate thing is that 800 plus units were raised in order, because it was in such bad condition, they had to
mhm,
raise them. Judge
mhm,
Rosenbaum, who is on the MPHA board, uh, ordered through a consent decree that the housing was raised and new housing would be built.
mhm,
Well, that housing was built and it hasn't been maintained, just like anything. Your car, your yard, your house, everything needs to be kept up. And it was
mhm.
20 plus years ago now, and we're seeing the effects of not taking care of the housing stock that the MPHA owns.
I reached out to Abdi Warsami, who is the head of the MPHA. Didn't get through to him. I think when you try to call them, you get into a phone tree that never results in speaking to a human being. But I left a message telling them that I'm interested in covering the protest march that's happening right now, and I wanted to have them on to tell their side of the story. I'll be reaching out to them again. And one of the things that Miss Jackson brought up that I thought was really important, and I
Yes,
kind of apologize for the oversight for Inside News, but she
yes,
mentioned that building on the corner of Olson and almost, what's it, Olson, I don't know the cross street on Van White maybe, but the
yeah,
building that caught fire a few years
yes,
ago,
just,
right?
yes,
And
yes,
you know, it's something that you end up driving by it every day. I do regularly, and I remember when it burned a
yep,
while ago, but I sort
yep,
of put it in the back of my mind. And why is it that our people are conditioned to accept blight and to accept lack of public accountability and attention and solution making when it comes to our community? And so she reminded me of that. And what I'm going to do, Nancy, is make sure that I send a photographer over to just to get a picture of that
yep,
building and raise the
yep,
questions with the housing authority. How come this has been sitting here vacant? Probably, certainly an eyesore, but probably a health hazard to children and families. And why
right.
is it allowed to do that? But that's symptomatic of the overall uh, dissonance in terms of the authorities' accountability to the people who live there.
Well, and they are charged with, uh, you know, subsidized housing, right? That's what they do, public housing.
Hmm.
But if they just keep building new housing and not taking care of their existing stock, then what they are doing is basically establishing the precedent of letting us return to kind of housing project quality. And
Ah,
nobody wants that. Nobody should want that. And you're absolutely right about this issue of, blighted housing that invites other blight, right?
yep.
So it piles on, and they've seen. We had Representative Aguante come visit um, a few months ago, and the day she came and visited, the day just before she got there was a shooting at Heritage Park.
Mm,
And I'm very proud to say she wanted to continue on. She didn't want to stop. She wanted to see the community,
hmm.
and she's been fighting to find ways to secure some funding.
Hmm.
But so far, we're still struggling with MPHA being a willing partner. They need to be a
Okay.
partner and a collaborator.
Okay.
And my
Well,
battery's about to die.
well, that's fine. Thank you for the time you took, and thank you for doing what you do. We'll keep following up with you as we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take
All right.
care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye. Well, that was interesting.
What's her last name, Al?
Hilden, Hylden. She's a principal at Hilden Law here in Minneapolis.
D-E-N?
Yeah, Hylden.
Okay.
And it's Nancy Hilden. And interesting that whole community. This was like what happened in Chicago with the is it Robert Taylor homes? All the big cities had projects that were built. They must have had them in Kansas City too, right?
We did down on 12th and Vine down there
Right.
by Sam Mann
Yeah.
and his church. Yeah.
Are they still up or are they gone?
You know, I don't know where Sam is now.
But are the projects still there?
Oh, no. Oh,
So
no.
they took those down because what they did was just built high-rise poverty, right? They stacked poor people on top of each other. And at first, it seemed like it was a blessing, but it ended up being a dangerous situation in many cities because people were stacked up in poverty and stacked up in lack of access and stacked up in the propensity for danger, to happen and take place. And at the same time, I remember in Kansas City hearing about high-rise buildings where the elevators didn't work. So it's an 18-story building or 10-story or 20-story building, and you live on the 18th floor, no elevator, and that in big cities made a fertile opportunity for, the robber element to trap people and, make them pay an extra tax, gang tax, right? And so
Well, what you have in Kansas City now is gentrification, though, because you've got soccer fields down on 15th Street. And they've just moved in and put all of their stuff in where we used to play. So interesting. And you're right, as long as but we didn't stay quiet. Bernard wouldn't let anything come through like that. He just wouldn't. I love that line when I said, because I remember the incident when he walked into this room down in Jefferson City and the big boys had to quiet. That's how powerful he was. He just was.
Talking about your friend and my cousin, Bernard Powell.
Just wrote about him. He was
an organizer, and entrepreneur, social entrepreneur.
He'd have been in Washington, D.C. if he wanted to go.
Yeah. Yep. Bernard, unfortunately, was murdered at the age of 33. And the story is that he was going into a neighborhood spot at the end of a day. And one of the young people that he had actually mentored, but who was, for whatever reason, dissatisfied or distracted or under the influence of somebody else. We don't know. I don't know the answer anyway to what happened, but that person ended up shooting and killing Bernard, and it was a major loss to his family, obviously our family, to friends, and to our community. But he set a standard of boldness and speaking and fearlessness.
That's it.
And
fearlessness.
Not having to take low. And to understand that he would always say, all them people downtown put their pants on the same way I put mine on.
That's what he said.
One leg at a time,
That was him.
I don't owe anybody anything special, and I ain't got to back up from anybody, and I'm going to say what's on my mind. And that's what he did, and that's what he encouraged others to do as well. So
kind of reminds me of Spike Moss.
Well, I think they're cut from the same cloth. I think there was a cadre of people who I'd say whom were visited by the same spirit, and there was a dispensation of this certain audacity and certain integrity and certain fearlessness. And it was certainly across the country. I don't doubt that it was across the world where people came to an indwelling awareness and uh, confidence that their voice was as important as anybody else's voice, and that the air that they breathed was the same air any other human being on the planet was breathing, and therefore they had a right to speak their truth, be their authentic selves, and to not accept the marginalization and the discrimination, to not accept the uh, arrogant paternalism, to not accept the colonial mentality, the imperial mentality, and to challenge that wherever it came from, whenever it showed up, even if it came from within our own community, they challenged it, And so I think that was part of a general dispensation where the creative uh, uh, source uh, uh, infused that into a network of people that didn't know each other, but they all did the same thing, and that is rose up and stood up
Mhm.
and showed how to stand up so that our communities could move forward. What do you think?
Well, like I said, we had parents that advocated for us,
Hmm.
and we had teachers who were on the front line and were not afraid of their jobs being jeopardized. If we didn't have desks and we didn't have books, someone was going to answer at 1211 McGee. And they had to answer. They had to fix the schools, so we weren't quiet. And the fact that we were readers, even without being able to go into the main library. Our parents made for sure that we had reading material. And I think I wrote about this, and I think your dad did that with you, where he would make you read the newspaper
Yep,
to him.
yep, yep.
And I read the comics because I thought it was a big deal that they had a Brenda Star. And so I had to know what Brenda was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we read in church.
Yep,
We might not have understood
yep,
everything, but in Sunday school, we read.
yep.
So that was why it was so important on that short article I did on the power of literacy, because that gave us our power. You couldn't tell us we weren't tough. We might have had nappy hair. We might not have had heart spells and Adler clothes, but we were tough. And we knew that. And our teachers instilled that in us. They couldn't keep Kamal quiet.
we got a few minutes still. Let's do some more memory lane stuff, Brenda. I'm enjoying this. So, name all of your teachers from kindergarten up through sixth grade, if you
Well,
can.
we had Vern Webster, you
Yep,
and I
kindergarten.
did, and
Mm-hmm.
Burnell, and that was kindergarten. And she lived on Lockridge in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Our principal lived up the street from me on
George
our
Perry.
street,
Yep,
28th,
yep.
George Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And then first grade, I had Miss Chipley, and that was half days because
Okay.
they were fixing DA homes.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It,
third
se- it seems to
grade,
me. It seems to me my whole first grade was in DA Homes, but I can't remember because I know I had Miss Matthews was my first grade teacher. Did you have
I
her?
had her for sixth grade.
Okay, yeah, she was
Yeah.
first grade when I started there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, she was wonderful. Kansas
Yep.
City, Kansas, gorgeous lady.
Yep.
But I remember Miss Johnson in the fourth grade,
Yep.
and she was tough.
And we were in
Oh
that
my
class.
goodness.
We were in that class together. She was my fourth
I
grade teacher.
remember her. She was tough.
How
And
about how about second and third? Do you have Miss Caldwell for second grade?
you had Caldwell,
Yep.
I had Miss Webb. And
Okay.
remember, she had daughters that were very prominent as well.
Mhm.
And then fifth grade, my favorite, Grace Kirkpatrick.
Uh-huh.
And then sixth grade, I had Miss Matthews.
Miss
But
Matthews.
the beauty of of DA Homes and that community was the fact that it was all diverse. You had doctors and lawyers,
Mhm.
and then you had, parents that were not highly educated, self taught, but
Mhm.
had beautiful homes.
Mhm.
Um, it was just a wonderful community. And yeah, we kind of got out of hand a little bit, Kamal and Bernard. But you remember Fairland Park.
I do. I do.
Yeah, I
I, I,
fought. I fought my father. How come I can't go one day a year? If
mhm.
you can go one day a year, you can go the rest of them.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
um,
Fairyland Park was an amusement park, kind of like the predecessor to a thing like Valley Fair here in Minnesota or Six Flags, but it was a place where all the circus type stuff wasn't a circus, but a year round or season long amusement park. And when we were growing up, they reserved one day a year for black kids, and
called
so
it Colored Day.
and the schools would put us on buses and take us out there. I remember I went one year, but the second year we chose not to go. We boycotted it. So I don't know if you remember that. Did you ever go there
I
at
couldn't.
all?
I could never go.
I went
And
one
then the
year.
swimming pool was the same thing in Swope
Yeah.
Park.
Yep.
They
Yep.
gave us one day a year, and
Hmm.
then they drained the pool after Colored Day.
Was that at shelter number 5 too?
I
I
think
remember.
so. I don't
That's
know.
we grew up there every year and would go and have our picnic, our school picnic, at Shelter House number 5, and that was the place we had. And we had a baseball diamond there. I remember going across the street to the actual zoo, right? If you remember that,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
But those are some kind
And
of memories.
I'd like to throw horseshoes. Girls weren't supposed to do that, but my
Mm,
dad, that was his thing, bid whists and, well, really straight whists with them
mm-hmm.
and horseshoes. Yep.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was a lot of good memories, Al, a lot of good memories.
Hmm.
The
Well, listen.
type of
Thank.
laughter that made you cry. And
Yeah.
Bernard would do that to us,
Yep. Yep.
especially in Brooklyn Park.
Yep. Brooklyn Park, for those who are here, Brooklyn Park is one of our suburbs, right? Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center. So
Mhm.
not to be confused with these suburbs. You mean the park across from where Bernard lived on Brooklyn
Yeah,
Avenue.
and where your cousin would roll me down the hill right after
Right.
I came out of the beauty shop, and then I was
Uh-huh.
full of snow.
Boy, boy,
Yeah,
boy. Well, listen, memory lane is a good thing. Well, Brenda, listen, thanks. Let's go ahead and close the show. Thank you again. And tomorrow we'll be with our friends. Hopefully we'll have Burnell and Kamal. Burnell Powell, just so I remind people, is the retired former dean of the University of South Carolina Law School. And the beauty of his career is that he was also, prior to that, the dean of the law school at University of Missouri at Kansas City. And what a story that is, to grow up where we grew up on 28th in Brooklyn, to be neighborhood, kids, and one of us ends up being the dean of the law school, which is
powerful.
the prize of the educational apparatus in the city of Kansas City. And so we were and all are proud of him and his work, his stellar career as an educator, as a lawyer, and as a specialist. His specialty is ethics. So he's done work in the profession around the country, talking about ethics, and that comes through in our discussions because
Most
he's
definitely.
precise and consistent, and I think so enjoyable. And Kamal King, part of our group, he and Renell both went to law school, and both have had stellar legal careers. And it's wonderful to connect with him now. I'm hoping that over time we'll be able to reach some more of our classmates and
It would
expand
be
this
good.
conversation. Yeah,
It
and I
would
think
be good.
the value in part is the beauty of recollection and of sharing our stories, so that we create as many records as possible as we can, leaving our interpretation of what happened in the world, how it looked from our point of view. with the gravitas, the sense that what we see is the real deal, and how we say it is important for everybody. So that's what
But
we're
you
going to
know
keep doing.
what's
Yeah.
interesting, Al, is
Mhm.
that Norman Rockwell picked this up. You
Mhm.
know, new kids on in the neighborhood. He
Mhm.
saw all of this as this famous white artist
Mhm.
who stopped everything for Ruby Bridges and for looking at white flight in the neighborhood in the 60s. I'm surprised that they didn't get angry with him for doing that and burning his area down, because that was pretty bold, as big as Norman Rockwell was, to tell our story,
Mhm.
because that basically was our story.
Mhm.
I never will forget when I was called the N word and ran home crying. That memory, that was the reason I loved when David Rabb said that, was that trauma has a long tail.
Yeah.
Look at how long that's been.
Mhm.
The fellas kind of stuck together, and, but sometimes it got pretty tough and pretty lonely when there weren't that many blacks on our blocks,
Mhm.
as, people ran away. But anyway, it was a good childhood. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Let me tell you what your thought just gave me another memory. So I'll just share it with you. When we moved from where we live, we went to we lived in the house with the Powells. Mr. Powell, Mrs. Powell owned this big brownstone at 28th in Brooklyn, and our grandmother lived on the second floor, and one of our aunts, and then my mom and dad and my older sister and me lived in like an efficiency on the third floor.
And I
And
did too in Kansas City, Kansas,
yeah,
in a
yeah.
third
So
floor kitchenette.
yep, kitchenette.
Hmm.
That's where we lived. But we
Hmm.
were all together there, and then we left there to go to a house on 32nd in Indiana, I think. I'm not sure I can't remember the sequence now, but I think we bought the grocery store next door first. And then after that, we moved over to 32nd in Indiana, because we had the grocery store when I was still going to DA Homes, to the grade school with you. And um, then I think my junior high, or before high school started, our family moved out to 47th and Elmwood or something like that. And
And
it was in
Vineyard Gardens.
Vineyard Gardens. So this
Hmm.
was neighborhood just now becoming integrated. And I tell this story that my mother and father tell me that they had pulled up, and the gas man or the postman or somebody saw them, was walking across the lawn before the lawn of the house they were going to buy, and then the next door lawn, and this service guy uh, saw them parked there in front of on the street, and came up to them and said, "Oh, you all must be the spooks." And so they said what? And so my
You're
mother
kidding. Oh, wow.
my mother hunched my dad and said, because he said, "No, we're not the spooks," meaning we're not Mr. and Mrs. Spooks, we're Mr. and Mrs. McFarlane. My father, the immigrant, didn't get it. He didn't get it, and hadn't been accustomed to being called that name, right? But my mother got it right away, and the postman didn't get it. It seemed, because he said, "Well, the neighbors told me that the Spooks bought the house, so I presume you're Mr. and Mrs. Spooks."
Oh,
So, but that was the environment that
believe me, I
we
know.
moved into, right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, but stories. Listen, Brenda, good talking to you, my friend. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.